Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode. In today's episode, I was joined by Chiefs fan David Figgins as we preview Week 12 of the 2025 NFL season. I look ahead to a massive game between the Chiefs and the Colts. In this game, I think if they had to win this game, it would be like, oh my god, this team's actually legit. David has trouble picking between the Bills and the Texans.
It's really tough, this, because it depends what team turns up for both teams.
As we predict each game winner in Andy versus the guest. Hope you all enjoy. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am, as ever, your host today, Andy Davis, and we are here to preview Week 12 of the 2025 NFL season. I mean, my goodness, this season's just getting faster by the minute. It just seems like yesterday it was Week 1, but we are here, Week 12. We're getting towards crunch time of the season, and with me today is a guy that knows all too well about crunch times of the season. Is one of our resident Chiefs fans, David Figgins. David, how are you? Good to have you on.
Yeah, I'm all right. I don't know about my fandom with the Chiefs. It's been a bit topsy-turvy. We've had a bit of ups and downs throughout the season, but yeah, I'm doing okay. You okay, mate?
Yeah, I'm great. Obviously, the end of the international series, so that brings end a crazy 2 months or so doing the media stuff, whether it's been in Dublin, in London, in Berlin, or Madrid. It's been a great time. Don't get me wrong, but it's been a crazy couple of months. But it'll feel weird actually watching it. Now watching Red Zone, not having to rush back from media events or missing some of it because I'm doing stuff. So yeah, all good on that front. Of course, those of you who are listening or watching the episode, you can catch all of the post-game stuff and the pre-game stuff from the last few months on our socials, as well as my own TikTok, Andy Talks NFL, if you want to listen. And also across_the_pod is our socials on Instagram and X. And apologies those for missing Week 11 preview. We did have planned to do a Week 11 preview in Madrid, but it didn't happen for one reason or another. So apologies for the lack of Week 11 previewing, but we're going to go on to Week 12 as we look ahead to, once again, Andy versus the guest. And let's find out the results from the last episode of Andy versus the guest. So in Week 10, I had Steve McGuinness on to preview that week. I was in Berlin, and Steve absolutely annihilated me. He got 9 points and I got 5. It was a real demolishing from Steve. So it now brings the leaderboard now as Andy 5, the guest 4 going into Week 12. So David, you have the task, somewhat the honour of trying to level things in Andy versus the guest before Thanksgiving next week.
If there's anyone who knows about 5 and 5, then it's obviously going to be a Chiefs fan. So hopefully I can make it 5 and 5.
Well, let's get into it with our Thursday night encounter. We've got the Buffalo Bills, who got back to winning ways against the Buccaneers last time out, against the Houston Texans, who also got back to winning ways with their win against the Titans. David, as you are the guest, I'll go to you first. Basically, as of 4 hours' time of recording, who wins this game for you?
It's really tough, this, because it depends what team turns up for both teams. So did you say it's in Buffalo?
It's in Houston.
It's in Houston. That kind of sways me a little bit. I'm gonna go with Houston, just a mild Houston win. But I don't feel great about it because I don't know. Houston are again one of these teams that is so unreliable. They're on a bit of a streak at the moment because they've won the last couple of games, if memory serves me right. But again, the Bills just have some absolutely mental games. Like the game against Miami a couple of weeks ago was just insane. So yeah, I think this is another potential banana skin for them. But yeah, I think it'll be close, but I think Houston might just shade it.
Interesting, because sometimes on these episodes we have some ones where it took us till about, I think it took us till Sunday Night Football for me and Talksport's Will Varney to have a different prediction. Sometimes it takes about 5 or 6 games for a different prediction to get underway, but straight away, first game we're going different. I'm going for the Bills. I think if the Bills hadn't beat the Bucks, I'd be a lot more hopeful of them maybe losing. But I think the fact that albeit they had a lot of problems defensively, they showed that character to go out and win. And I don't think I'm going to get too upbeat about a win against the Jags, and especially against a win against the Texans winning against the Titans for the Texans.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of problems at O-line, and I think that I could just see. I don't think we'll see a Josh Allen 6-touchdown performance again this week, but I think certainly on a shorter week, home team normally does better. But I think for me, I have faith in Buffalo Bills. I think for well the Bills. They haven't made a Super Bowl yet, but in the regular season, they do seem to turn it on this time of year. I know full well, being a Dolphins fan, that we've been 3 or 4 games clear this time of year, and then they find a way later on to get some momentum, get some form going. And I think that win against the Buccaneers might have given them that lift in the locker room and given them that belief. So I think they'll get back to winning ways. I think against a harder opponent, maybe I'd be a bit more skeptical, especially being on the road. But for me, on the road for me in this game, I think the Bills win it. Moving on though to Sunday, our first game is in Baltimore as the New York Jets travel to M&T Bank Stadium to take on the Ravens, and I'm going to go for a Ravens win. Now, if you'd asked me this in week 5, I might have gone, tougher game. Jets have been bad, but Ravens have been awful. But I think we've seen the Ravens getting back somewhat to their old selves in the last few weeks, and I think that against a team that is pretty much in tank mode, even if they don't want to believe that's what's happening. The fact that their front office gave away arguably their 2 best players on defense, and the offense has struggled as well at times. I think Tyrod Taylor's due to be starting, I believe, in this game over Fields. I could be wrong on that, but I think either way, whether it's Taylor, whether it's Fields, whether it's anyone on defense or offense, I don't think there's any way, especially in Baltimore as well, a really hard place to go. I see an easy win for the Ravens. How about you, David?
Yeah, exactly the same. They could have prime Joe Montana at quarterback and they still wouldn't win this game. I think the Ravens are obviously on such an impressive run at the moment in terms of consecutive wins, and I think they're building up that momentum to come crashing into the playoffs. And if I'm being honest, if you're one of the home, and saying that they could win the division, so they might even be a home seeded team in the divisional round. I think if they come in as a wild card, I would really not want to face the Ravens as they're picking up this head of steam at the moment. So yeah, I can't see anything other than a dominant Ravens win on in this game.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think obviously there's times where the best team throughout the regular season goes on and wins the Super Bowl. The Eagles proved that last year, but there are times where these teams can find momentum late on in the season and just sneak in and then become a team that you don't want to face. I'm fully convinced that the Bengals would have been that team if they'd made the playoffs last year. I think there's been teams before that have done this. I think the Titans might have been one, went in 2019 when they beat the Ravens, then beat the Patriots the week before. I think this Ravens team, they haven't been perfect, and I think it will be an amazing story should they go out and win that division after going 1-5 to start the year. I think there were some clear problems there. They almost lost to the Browns the other day, but I think against this Jets team, I think it's a really easy opponent for them and a really nice way to get that win. And I think especially with what the game we're covering next is, it's a really good chance for them to close the gap on the AFC North, and that brings us to Soldier Field as the Steelers travel to the Bears. David, who wins this for you?
Again, the Bears, like they're another team picking up a head of steam, and who'd have thought that they'd be on top of the NFC North, considering the strength of that division. So I think the Steelers are waning a little bit. Rodgers is showing his age a little bit. And yeah, again, I just can't see anything other than a Bears win. Not necessarily a dominant or maybe more convincing than dominant, I think. But I think it'll probably be maybe like a 6-point game or maybe a little bit more. But I do think that the Bears will win this.
I agree. I think the Bears right now are the hottest team in the NFC. Now, that's probably a controversial statement, and I think that on paper, I think the likes of I think the Eagles will beat them in the playoffs. I think the Lions will beat them on their day.
The Rams have beaten them in the
Yes,
playoffs as well.
the Rams, the Bucks on their day as well, and I just feel like, but I think right now there's not many teams playing better than the Bears, and I think we're seeing finally why Caleb Williams was drafted first overall last year. We're seeing why there was hype. Obviously, Ben Johnson's first time the head coach is always at risk. Is he just a good coordinator? Is he going to be a good head coach? But what I've seen so far, there's pretty much since the turn of week 4, it's just been spectacular. They've got a good running game. The tight end play is amazing right now from Colston Loveland, a real fighter. And then the defense itself has been brilliant in addition. So for me, there's not many holes in this Bears team. And I think, certainly this should be a team that I think we're looking at as a dark horse to maybe go on and reach that NFC game. I don't think it will happen, but I wouldn't be, the way it's going right now, I wouldn't be shocked if that did happen. Good times right now in Chicago. Amazingly top of the NFC North. Now, we had our predictions start the year with Steve and Luke, who come on every year to do the predictions, and Luke is a hardcore Bears fan, and I'm sure he would have gone for the Bears to win the division. I'm sure of it, and if that happens and it comes true, then he'll look like a bit of a genius come the end of the season.
So just to cut in there, it's funny you say that. I put a bet on all 8 division winners at the start of the season, and there is always a last to first, or there's quite usually a last to first, and so I actually put money on the Bears to win that division this season. So I just want to take a little bit of credit for that as well.
That's amazing.
If it comes to fruition.
That's
if it comes to fruition, yeah.
It's
Go on, sorry.
Because it's I for a few years did those bets with a certain betting company that I'd often do predictions each year, and I'd go for my 8 division winners, and I would do about 4 different combinations, about 50p a go, so about £2, maybe even a £5 or £10 bet with 4 different combinations, and there's always that 1 or 2 teams that completely let you down. I think the last time I did it was 2022, and it was, I want to say, was it I can't think whether it was the Vikings or I think it might have been the Vikings or Packers that I predicted to win, and the other one won it. And I think, that's why it was. I put the Packers to win it, and then week 1 the Vikings beat them, and it was from then on. It was just a lost cause. But I think there was one year where I think everything but 2 was let me down, and one of them was the Dolphins leading the AFC East. I'm thinking, oh no, typical. We're gonna win the division for the first time in my lifetime being a fan, and yet I'm not gonna lose out on money. But thankfully, a different division ended up costing me. But those bets are incredible. They're literally like something like you can get a lot. If you get them right, you can get a lot of money for them.
It
was something crazy, like a few grand. I think might even be more than that.
Yeah, I think mine was like £2,000 off like £1 or something like that. So I was like, and I went with some pretty obvious ones at the time, like Chiefs and Bills for their divisions. So it's not like I'd gone really out there, but I went Commanders for the NFC North, but not the NFC North, the NFC, sorry, and I went Bears for the NFC North, which obviously bumped it up a little bit. Commanders is obviously not happening. Because I really bought into the Jaden Daniels hype last year, and I thought that was going to like play out this season. But they're always good fun. But the Bears one is one that, because he's a bit of a gunslinger, isn't he? Caleb Williams, and I think a lot of the game itself now is quite offense heavy, and I think that when they appointed Ben Johnson, I thought this could actually be the makings of something really, really good. And they have like a sort of, ironically, I guess, they feel like the Lions team of a couple of years ago, where they've been down on the luck for such a long period of time, and they've suddenly found a spark and that fighting spirit of we're the underdog, nobody expects us to win, and that's why we're going to win. And that's why I sort of kind of have a bit of a soft spot for the Bears and the Lions, coincidentally. So yeah, I like the Bears. I like the way they're looking.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows who are regular listeners will know my thoughts on the Bears. They are my team I would pick if the Dolphins were no longer a team. I've always loved the uniform, the jersey, and the stadium, and since going there, the city as well. But yeah, you can't help but watch his Bears team and just be actually really enjoy watching them play because there's been a lot of
Yeah,
times
absolutely. Yeah.
they haven't been good teams to watch. They haven't been a team that you want to watch. They're sort of a team that you sort of watch gradually through watching Red Zone. And I think the only one that's really come close is the Bears in 2018 when they had that really good defense. But yeah, this Bears team's legit, and I think with Rodgers also concerns over him whether he's going to be playing this game. Obviously, he'll want to play.
Mm.
After all, we want to probably see the team that he owns. See how they're getting on and stuff like that. But it's a lot of history from that game for him, and I'm sure Soldier Field will get a lot if he does play. Will get a lot of boos from those
Yeah,
Bears.
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm intrigued how that'll go out, but I think it'll be an unhappy return for Rodgers in this game.
Mm.
Next up is sticking with the AFC North as the Bengals host the New England Patriots. Now, as of about when my phone told me an hour ago that Joe Burrow is taking quarterback one reps during individual drills, as per Ben_baby, with Joe Flacco taking the quarterback 2 reps. Now, this adds a lot more spice to the game because Burrow is such a clutch quarterback. He's made so many good moments over the years. A lot of injury problems as well. If I'm honest, do they think they're going to make a 3-game gap reduce? I mean, in that division, arguably you could because it's been so poor this year. But either way, I think whether it's Burrow back, whether it's Burrow not playing and it's Flacco, I think the Patriots win. I think they're rolling right now. I think the Bengals lost games even with Burrow playing an MVP kind of season last year. And I think with Burrow just getting back to healthy won't be probably his full self. But I think even if he was, I think that defense would let him down. So I'm going to go for the Patriots to win. I think they're rolling. I think they could win the AFC. Sorry, yeah, be number 1 seed in the AFC. Certainly, I think they'll get the number 1 seed, in my opinion. And I think they win here. David, how do you see this game for you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I think even if Burrow is to be fair, even if Burrow's an 80% Joe Burrow, that gives them such a boost. But if we're talking about teams with momentum, the Pats are the team with momentum, aren't they? In the entire league, I would say at the moment. Drake May is on a really good run, and I think even if Joe Burrow comes back, you're talking about the defense. My worry would be that he doesn't get injured again with that O-line because I don't think he's had an O-line that protects him since he's been there. So yeah, I can't see anything other than a pretty convincing Patriots win with or without Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. With or without Burrow, they'll still lose. That defense is
Yeah.
pretty terrific. It's generationally awful. I think I'd like to put it.
Yeah. It has been for a couple of seasons as well.
I mean, as long as I can remember, I can't think of a single year. There've been years where they've been bad everywhere. The Andy Dalton age, they had AJ Green, they had Dalton, but for years they've had issues on defense. It's been
Yeah.
the problem is not really resolved, I don't think, at all. Certainly since Zach Taylor came into the building. Now going from the AFC North to the NFC North, this time it's the Detroit Lions as they host the New York Giants. For me, I'm gonna go for a win for the Lions. It's pretty easy. I think I said it before in the last episode. If they had Dart, Scatterboo, and Neighbours, could be a bit of an upset alert. But I think without those players, I think the Lions right now, and they're obviously a disappointing result in Philly, but I don't think there's any shame to lose to the Eagles. They're one of the best teams in the league. I think against this Giants team at home, I think it's a get-right game for them, and I think they'll ease to a victory here. David, how are you seeing it? Giants or Lions?
Lions. Yeah, it's the Lions. I think the Giants have been really unlucky, like you say, with injuries this season, and they've to some really, really key players. Scatterboo's been a really really good investment for them. And the fact that they've got neighbours on the other end, when they're both fully fit, they're able to stretch the field and utilise both. And I think Jackson Dart has played really well as well. But I think that the Lions seem to be going through a bit of a transition this season, because obviously their division is probably strongest in the entire league. But I still think that they've got much more quality across the board than the Giants have. So yeah, these games all seem quite open, and we've not open, sorry, quite closed. So we've kind of agreed on most of them, because they seem to be quite obvious, other than the first one. And I'm going with the same as you again. I'm going with the Lions.
Yeah, I think the Lions are, in every aspect of the field, I think they're better. They've got a better quarterback. They've got, with injuries into play, they've got, even without injuries, a better running back room. They've got a better receiving room. They've got better defense. They've got a better head coach, and they've probably got better coordinators. So yeah, I think there's an absolute mismatch. I think if it was at MetLife, maybe you could argue upset potentially, but I think in this game, not so much. And we seem to have lost David. He has gone somewhere. We don't know where he is. He could be anywhere. So I hope to bring you in a second. There is assumption. Oh, here he is. He's back on the podcast. He has made his return. David, where did you go?
I've got the room that I'm in. It's a little box room, and it's got like sort of window at the top that's kind of open. And one of the cats has jumped on the wardrobe, jumped down, and then brushed past the. You'll probably see it. You'll probably see it, and brushed past the phone, and has left it by touching the phone. So, so yeah, it's one of my cat's fault.
Do you know, like literally, that I was looking down on my on the Word document, looking at what the next game was, and putting my prediction in and your prediction in. I missed all of this. I'm looking forward to looking back on editing.
We've had two actually. So when you're looking through, you'll see the first one, and I just brush them out of the way quickly, and then the second one, she comes in, and then that's when I end up leaving.
Well, for those who are watching on YouTube, you probably have seen it already. And I hope you had a good laugh watching that cat invasion on the show, and their appearance as special guests on this week's episode. Well, we're sticking with the NFC North for our next game, which is involving arguably two of the fiercest rivals in the NFL, as the Packers host the Minnesota Vikings. David, who wins this for you?
Again, I think this is a little tighter, but I think the Packers win this. Although this could go either way. The divisional games like this, especially with two decent teams, can absolutely go either way. But I'm gonna say the Packers shared this.
I agree. Now, I'd hoped on McCarthy. I really did, and I think when you got a guy like McCarthy, Jefferson to throw to, I think you can make anything happen. What I've seen since come back from injury, it's not been good at all from McCarthy.
Yeah.
And I think
I'm
not going to say this means he's going to be a bust or it's not going to work out. But I think as a rookie, essentially a rookie in this league, I think he just needs a bit of time to maybe sit back. But then they're a bit trapped, because who else do they play? I mean, makes you wonder about whether they should have kept Sam Darnold and all that. And I do think that this Brian Flores defense could cause problems to Jordan Love. The Packers have proven that this year they can beat good teams and they can lose to they can beat bad. They can beat good teams but lose to bad teams. Their two losses, or their 2 to 3 losses, coming against the Panthers and the Browns. Obviously, everyone being the Eagles, and I think the Vikings of last year might have caused problems, because we saw only 3 losses the entire year for the Vikings, the record for the most wins for a non-division winner in history. But I don't see them beat the Packers. I think in Lambeau as well, the Packers have an ability to sort of lose games themselves. But for me, no, I think there's no way they lose this game. I mean, it's a shame. I think McCarthy's a bit of a transition year for him, just learning the ropes. I have faith they'll come good, but for me right now, they're nowhere near as good as the other 3 teams in this division at all. But next up is what we call the main event. As our fan of the episode, his team is next, as the Chiefs host the Colts in a massive game. It's a massive, massive game. You've got an 8-2 team in the Colts coming up against a 5-win team in the Chiefs off the back of a loss against the Broncos in a really crucial division match there. Colts off a bye week. This is huge because, first of all, the Colts want to be serious contenders. This is the perfect stage for them to go out and do this. I think the Chiefs want to remind everyone they're still here. This is also a chance for them to remind everyone what they could do. So, David, for you, first of all, how are you feeling about the game? But also, what's your prediction? Who's going to win?
How I'm feeling about it. It's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. If you'd have told me going into this week that the Chiefs would be at 500 and the Colts would be 8-2, I'd have asked you what drugs you were using. But I also think there's a little bit of a false representation with Indianapolis, and maybe I'm just jumping on a little bit of a bandwagon because this is a thing. But I don't think the Colts are as good as their record is. With that said, I think that the running game is a big worry, a huge worry. Especially if that opens the game for the wide receivers, particularly Pittman. I do think the Chiefs will win. I think I've got to say that as a Chiefs fan, but also I do genuinely think the Chiefs will win because the Broncos loss and the Bills loss. So both those losses were a bit of a smack in the chops. I think the Bills lost less so because the Chiefs weren't terrible, other than maybe the last couple of drives. But the Broncos loss in particular was a smack in the chops because they just could not get going on offense at all. And there were some really heavy mistakes made with. I would say the run game. The run game was one of the bigger successes in that game, and there were a couple of times where it was third and short or second and short, like 2nd and 3 or 2nd and 4, and instead of running it, like your every team does, or your more successful teams do Andy Reid or whoever was calling the plays. I don't even know whether he still calls the players or not, or whether it's Nagy has a hand in it. Whether they just reverted to type and have gone, right, well, we've got the supposed best quarterback in the NFL, potentially the best quarterback ever. Let's just put it in his hands. And I think we're putting it in his hands way too often and expect him to defy the odds over and over and over again. So I think if they learn from those mistakes, which apparently Andy Reid has said that we didn't run the ball as often as we needed to, which I think was quite obvious, I think the Chiefs will win. Still think there is potential for it to go the other way, obviously, because, like I said, the run game scares me. Jonathan Taylor is an absolutely incredible running back, arguably the best in the NFL. I think him and McCaffrey kind of are on their own little island at the moment, and maybe Barkley as well. Sorry, I think that is the thing that worries me, but I do think the Chiefs will win.
Yeah, that's fair. I've got a Chiefs winning as well. I think the home factor is massive for me. And again, now the Colts have got, a week's rest. They've had, a week off, a bye week. So they're going to be, extra rested. And I think Taylor is that difference maker. And I do think that defense as well could cause problems to Mahomes in the trenches. But it's equally that the Chiefs have the 9th best run defense. They're pretty equipped to deal with the Taylor factor. I think that if they can do that, I think it's then down to, okay, can Daniel Jones win you a game? And I just still don't know whether he can. Now, obviously, he's been good this year, but I think there were times in that in that Falcons game in Germany where he looked at times a bit like his old self, but then ultimately found a way to get the job done, got the game-winning drive, and helped the team. So I feel like I'm criticizing Daniel Jones too much, and I do think that like you said, they're not what their record suggests they are personally. But I think in this game, I think if they're to win this game, it would be like, oh my god, this team's actually legit. Because I do think Arrowhead is such a, even the Chiefs are 5-5, it's still a hard place to go. It's still a tough place to visit, and
Just the atmosphere alone is insane. Like it's the loudest stadium in the world. Like record wise, it's the loudest stadium in the world. So, but I also I think the Chiefs fans as well will be on side in terms of knowing that how crucial this game is. I don't think it's out of the question. Hello,
they're back. He's made an appearance.
I don't think it's out of the question. Maybe I've got my red tinted glasses on. I don't think it's out of the question that the Chiefs win out, given the schedule. But also I don't think it's out of the question that the Chiefs lose 4 of the last of the remaining games. So like we're in a bit of a weird position, and I think the fans will know that, and I think the fans will be completely. They're some of the craziest fans in the NFL, and I think that they'll be completely behind the team, and I also think the team know it as well, and they've got that winning DNA, haven't they? From previous experiences. So yeah, I know I've cut in on you, but yeah, the Chiefs, it has to be a Chiefs win for me. It just has to be. Otherwise, I think I'll be crying into my cereal on Monday morning.
Yeah, like if they lose, what happens? Because they're already 4 games behind the Broncos. I think if you lose that game, I think you can probably write off the AFC West this year, which would be the first time in 10 years you've not won the AFC West.
Yeah. I think I've already written off the AFC West because we're already 4 games behind the Broncos. So we've got a game against the Broncos, and we've got a game against the Chargers as well. So we could level those divisional records. But at the moment, we're 1-2 against the division. And say we go 4-2 against the division, we're still expecting the Chargers to drop at least another game, and then the Broncos to drop at least another 3 games. And I just think that's completely unrealistic. But I wouldn't mind going into the playoffs as a road divisional team, because I think that going into the playoffs a couple of seasons ago, not a couple of seasons ago, 3 seasons ago, sorry, when the Chiefs won the division but went in as the 3rd seed? I think it was the 3rd seed or the 4th seed. So ended up going on the road to I can't remember. It was Buffalo and then Baltimore, I think.
Yeah. It was, I think it was at home to the Dolphins, and then you were
it was
to
Ravens, Buffalo and then Baltimore.
Bills, then Ravens.
Yeah. So going into Buffalo, beating Josh Allen as they do every season, I guess, and then going to Baltimore in the AFC Championship game, and then winning more comfortably than we thought we would have done. I think that experience, you've got that kind of winning experience, but also the whole idea of nobody thinks we're good enough. The Patriots did it in 2019. It was not 2019, 2018. Sorry, during Mahomes' first season, when they came into Arrowhead as underdogs, so-called underdogs, and had this whole nobody thinks we can win attitude, despite the fact that we've been a 20-year dynasty. And I think the Chiefs are going into the playoffs, if they were a road team at every level, I think that would galvanise that again. But again, we've got to get there. I think this may be the catalyst for that.
Yeah. I think this is the kind of time of year where it can make or break seasons. Think about the Colts lose this game, we could see a catapult effect, and but I think equally if they win, it could be the season that makes everyone aware that okay, they are legit. Throw back to Leicester beating Man City in February, that made everyone stand up and go, oh, actually, right, they are legit. And I think for the Chiefs, I think you win this game, I think everyone goes, right, okay, this team is still there. And we were talking about on the podcast in the review of Week 11 how we still think right now, until the Chiefs get beaten, then they're still the favourites to win the AFC. Until they can be defeated in these big games, you can't write them off. But I think if you lose this game, I think that there's potential where you already 2 wins off the Chargers, could be 3 wins behind them, could be 2 wins behind the Jaguars. That in terms of that getting into the playoffs, there's a whole thing I always say about just make sure you're in, then the rest will follow and stuff like that. But I think you got to be careful you don't relax too much in the regular season, wait for the playoffs and not make it at all. So it's a really important game for the Chiefs. The home crowd will be loud, I'm sure. This is Mahomes right now has the honor right now, still never having been defeated earlier than the conference championship. So it's a big test for him, and I think this is a huge game. I think this is game of the week. I think Sunday Night Football is probably on paper the game of the week, and I think there's some good games. Obviously, Packers Vikings is always good, but for me, I think that to the context of a season, I think the Rams Bucks and Sunday Night Football is for me personally more about trying to get a higher seed, but this one's about if the Chiefs lose and they haven't got that on easy schedule the rest of the year, apart from a couple of games. I think one against the Raiders, one against I forget who it's against, but this is the big game for both teams in entirely different contexts and different meanings. So yeah, huge game. We both got the Chiefs win, and I think we're both going to have both wins for the next team, the Seahawks. As they travel to the Titans, I'm going for the Seahawks win. I think the Titans for me are maybe the worst team in the league. They're absolutely terrible, and I think that the Seahawks team will want to bounce back from the 4 picks that Darnold had against the Rams. But even with that, they still lost by 3 points. So there's 2 points. So they could even, if they could throw 4 picks in a game and still lose by just 2 points, it shows the strength of their team. And I think this Titans team has the luckiest win in NFL history. That win against the Cardinals was horrendous for the Cardinals. So yeah, give me the Seahawks to win. David, same as me?
Yeah, quite easily. I think the Seahawks are starting to turn my head a little bit. I think they could be a very sneaky good team. I know you were saying about the Bears potentially being one of those teams that get to the NFC Championship. I think the Seahawks are one of those teams as well, that maybe not a team that you would think would be a dominant force in the NFC, but I think they're a sneaky good team. I think the only thing that's kind of going against them is the fact that they've got one of the best teams in the NFL in their division in the Rams, and that will or could mean that they don't win the division, and then that means that they're in on a road game for each of their playoff games. So, but yeah, they're a sneaky good team, the Seahawks, and I think it's an obvious Seahawks win this one.
Sam Darnold's had back-to-back years of potentially having some of the best ever second place finish seasons in history. You think about, I mentioned before, the Viking season he had last year.
Yeah.
He's looking right now. He's on 6-4 record right now. I mean, you're looking at they could easily go 12, 13 wins.
The 7-3, I think.
Are they 7-3? I thought they were 6-3, and they played the Rams and lost. Who checked that? Either way, they could be on a 11-12 win season and not even win their division. I mean, it's.
I'm sure they're second in the division, and I'm sure the Niners.
It is 7-3.
The Niners have Niners have played one more game, haven't they? But they lost it.
Yeah, I mean 7-3. They could easily lose just 2 more games and still finish second. And I think Sam Darnold must be sitting there thinking, what do I have to do? I've had my 2 best seasons of my career, and I've not won the division either time. It's absolutely insane. Moving on though to the later slate, in the first of 4 games in the later slate, we have the Cardinals hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. David, who wins this for you?
It's got to be the Jags. I think the Cardinals have a bit of bluster, but I don't think they've got enough the Jags aren't necessarily one of the best teams in the NFL, but yeah, I think the Jags edge this, and they might not even edge it. They might absolutely batter them, but they're both really funny teams. Like, they're both really, really hard to gauge teams, I think. Who have like topsy turvy runs and stuff. But yeah, it's the Jags for me.
Interesting. I've gone for the Cardinals to win, and maybe not
Oh,
just.
right, okay.
I I think for me, I think you kind of alluded to then. I think the Cardinals are a team. They're both teams that can win games they're not expected to, and these games
Mm.
they're not expected to lose. And I just think I'm just going for who's home essentially. There's no real rhyme or reason behind it. I think they're both really weird teams. I think the Cardinals they are due win. I mean, yeah, Brissett putting up his career, or maybe his best game of his career statistically, and he still lost by 20 points. I mean, they've been victims of back to back, 44 points against the Seahawks, 41 points against the Niners. I just think that this Cardinals offense is doing something which is I think they've got a game in them. They've got the Buccaneers, the Rams, the Texans, the Falcons, the Bengals, and the Rams, and they got not many wins left to have. I just think that in these two teams that have tendency to be so inconsistent, I think I just think as a one-off game, I think they might do it. So I'm going to go for the Cardinals to win. Um, so next up is probably the worst game of the week on paper. We have the Raiders hosting the Cleveland Browns. But for me, I'm going for the Browns to win purely for their defense because I think both offenses have struggled. I think we saw Shadir Sanders will be starting week 12, and I think that could be a huge issue for them. I just think this Myles Garrett is just too good of a player. I mean, it's basically the Max Crosby against Myles Garrett show. So on that basis, actually, I'm going to call an audible. I'm going to go for the Jags win. The Raiders win. I want Sanders to come good, and I think that I'm someone who thought he might actually play some games this year. But I just think what I saw, do I trust the Raiders? That's the problem with this. This game is actually really hard to call because
Because
on the one
both teams are so bad. That's what it is.
yeah, exactly. Because on the one hand, you got Crosby against Garrett, you got Smith against Sanders or Gabriel if he comes in. Not great quarterback matchup there. You've got Brock Bowers, you've got Quinton Junkins. There's good players there. I'm gonna go for the home factor again. I think I'm gonna give the home team the win. I think the Raiders. What can you say? They've been really, really below what we expected of them. And speaking of Vegas, actually, I've just seen my phone. It's just literally come up now on my phone that CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens were at Red Rock Casino having dinner and drinks and missed curfew before the game at Vegas. So don't know what's happened with that, whether there's been some sort of team punishment, but that's just come on my phone right now. But yeah, back to the game. Raiders win for me. I think it's an extremely horrible game to even forecast watching. And yeah, give me that over the Browns. David, for you, is it? I imagine less of a pickle than I've had, certainly.
No, I'm comfortably saying the Browns. Maybe it's just because of my aversion to the Raiders at all. But I think that Browns defense is legit. I really think that Browns defense is legit. But Myles Garrett is just an animal. He's just crazy good. Shador Sanders, obviously, I'm not too sure about. But I just think that I think it'll be a low scoring game, but I think the Browns will have it absolutely.
Interesting case. That's our third game that's different. Our back-to-back games with different predictions. Next up is the Eagles traveling to Dallas, take on the Cowboys. David, who wins this for you?
It's a weird one because obviously divisional games just have that different dynamic, don't they? But the Eagles are such a good team. Arguably the best team in the NFL at the moment. So I'm going to go Eagles, but I would not be shocked if the Cowboys pulled a shock win off here.
Okay, but I'm going for Eagles as well. I know what you mean. Like I could see the Dallas Cowboys winning this game because, like you said, division rivalries always throw up these games. exactly what you said. But I just think right now, I just think the Eagles are winning games, not playing well. I don't think you're looking at an Eagles team and thinking, oh, they're playing attractive football, but at the same time, I think
They're winning. They're winning. They're winning. What more can you ask for?
Exactly. And I think Phillips has been an amazing addition. I think the Eagles team right now is getting towards that point of the year where they're starting to really build up momentum. They're 8-2, and no one's really talking about them again. Everyone's talking about the Rams and the Buccaneers and the Lions and the Broncos and the Colts and Patriots, but no one's mentioned Eagles. I think that's what they want. I think they want to go by unnoticed. So I think, they're going to be, for me personally, the massive favourites to win this game. Our final 9 p.m. slate game is in New Orleans as the Saints host the Falcons in a NFC South battle. I'm going for the Falcons to win. I think this Saints team's terrible. I think whether you have Tyler Shuck, whether you have Spencer Rattler, they've got aging players all over, Cam Jordan, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave's the one shining light this season. But I think this Falcons team, who will have Kirk Cousins playing because Penix has been ruled out for the season. So I think Kirk Cousins has potential to give this game to the Saints. But I think I'm going to give this win to the Falcons.
Yeah, I think it'll be a comfortable Falcons win. Again, it's a divisional game, so there's always that chance that it pulls out. But the Saints are such a bad team. And I think that the run game with the Falcons, Drake London is probably my favourite wide receiver in the NFL at the moment. He's just pulling off insane catch after insane catch. So yeah, Falcons relatively comfortably, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Now, on paper, the game of the week, the Buccaneers traveling to the LA Rams in Sunday Night Football. I mean, what a game this is. You've got Baker against Stafford. You've got McVay against Todd Bowles. You've got, Ibuka against Devontae Adams, Puka Nakua. You've got Kieran Williams. You've got a plethora of amazing players on display here. You've got possibly, personally for me, my MVP vote in Matt Stafford. You've got Baker, who was my early season MVP. It's two good teams here. What could be a massive game in terms of seedings for the NFC. So big game and a big game. David, who wins it for you?
So the Rams, arguably the best team in the NFL at the moment. The NFC's got I don't know, the top end of the NFC is really contested. And I kind of agree with you in the sense of Stafford being up there for MVP conversation. And McVay is a genius. McVay is an absolute genius when it comes to drawing up players. Not necessarily a fan of the way that he does things in the draft and the type of draft capital that he gives away for when he inevitably goes big, but I mean, it's worked for a number of years. He might have a couple of down years, but this season, I'm like you were saying about Puka Nakua and their receiving core as a whole, and they always seem to pull out running backs from absolutely nowhere. And Kyron Williams is evidence of that, as well as the running backs that they've had previously. But yeah, I'm going to go for the Rams. I really like Baker Mayfield. I really, really do like Baker Mayfield. I love his attitude. I love the way that he approaches things. I love the fact that he's gone from like nobody could have been successful in Cleveland, and he somehow made a mild success of that. Obviously, had a couple of down years. Is a former Ram because he was a backup there, and then has made a success of his career again, and that's because of that dogged, determined attitude that he's got. And I really love Baker for that. I think he gets some unfair stick sometimes for people in the media. That said, I still think the Rams are going to win.
I agree. I think the Bucks, for me, are a team that, I think they're a good team, but I think for me, you put them up against a team that's one of the best. I think they do struggle a little bit. So I'm going for the Rams as well. And then finally, sticking with the West Coast, as the Niners host the Panthers on Monday Night Football. I'm going for a Niners win. I think this Panthers team has at times looked good. I mean, right now they're level on wins with the Buccaneers and they're one loss behind them. So, the Rams win that game on Sunday Night Football. There's a chance for the Panthers to go level with the Bucs in the NFC South, which I don't think anyone would have expected after the first 5-6 weeks of the season. So this is a big game for the Panthers. If they can go out and beat the Niners in San Fran, I think that's a statement, not only for the team, but certainly for Bryce Young's development and Dave Canales as their head coach and and the coordinators they've got there. I think if they go and win this game, I think that's a massive statement win. But I don't see it happening. I do think the Niners win this game. I just think they're all round better in every aspect. And of course, you've got the McCaffrey factor against his former team. Obviously not in Carolina, but certainly still him playing his former team. I'm going to give the Niners a win. And for the final time in the episode, David, who wins the game for you?
Niners. Yeah, I do think the Niners win the game. I came into the season really not believing in the Niners. I thought getting rid of Debo might have slowed them down a bit. I thought that the fact that their receiving options weren't necessarily blockbuster players, and I don't necessarily include George Kittle in that, but George Kittle usually has some sort of injury layoff over the course of the season where he misses 4 or 5 games. I didn't think they would be able to maintain, but I guess when you've got Shanahan as your head coach, you always make it work, don't you? I don't believe in Purdy either. I don't believe that Purdy is. I think paying Purdy was a mistake, and I still think that will come to fruition at some point. And I like the way that the Panthers have done things. They started off a little bit slow, then they've built up a bit of momentum, and Bryce Young's development seems to be coming on quite well. But I still don't think they're going to have enough to get past the Niners. So I do think the Niners will get this one.
Well, there we are. That is the final one predictions. In the end, we've gone for 3 different predictions differently. So you've both gone for wins for the Ravens, Bears, Pats, Lions, Packers, Chiefs, Seahawks, Eagles, Falcons, Rams, and Niners. Whereas we've gone for different predictions in Bills, Texans. I've gone for the Bills. Dave's gone for the Texans. David's gone for a win for the Jags over the Cardinals. I've gone for the Cardinals. And I went for a win for the Raiders over the Browns, where David went for the Browns. Now, David, first of all, thank you for coming on today.
No problem. Anytime.
Well, it's been good having you on, and I'm hoping I'll be getting you on near the playoff time. I'm sure the Chiefs will be in there.
So do I. So do I.
Well, it's been good having you on, and we'll
Thanks,
get
man.
you on definitely again in the incoming future. I hope you all enjoyed it wherever you're watching this podcast or listening to it, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and leave a comment if you can as well on YouTube or Spotify. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast, and don't forget to use code Andy5 at checkout at Fantasy Game Day app. This has been the guest today in David Figgins, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
See ya.